Running a web design agency can be really hard and success is never guaranteed. But while there are outside factors that can hamper your progress, there are also plenty of mistakes I've seen agencies make that can be absolutely catastrophic. In this video, I'm going to share the 4 things that can kill your agency. And these are things that I've seen firsthand over the course of my 26-year career. Hi, thanks for joining. If you're new to this channel, I'm Rich Dean, a web designer and developer, former web agency owner, and author of the book series Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency. My goal is to help anyone looking to start, grow and sell an agency to save time, earn more money, avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls, build a thriving and valuable business. Okay, so on to the main topic, starting with number 1, being too dependent on one client. The saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, is just as true when it comes to running a web design agency as it is with anything else. And I've seen agencies nearly collapse because they were too heavily dependent on one or just a few key clients. But I think there's also an understandable reason for this. The web design industry, by its nature, is project focused. What I mean by that is new website projects tend to be one-offs. Clients, like businesses or charities, may use their websites daily, but the websites themselves don't tend to actually change very much until they need replacing, which is usually every 3 or 5 or 10 years. So as web designers and agencies, we can find ourselves on this constant hamster wheel of needing to find and win new website projects. And then once a design developed and launched, that tends to be it, and we're on to the next one. If we're lucky, we might find bigger clients or contracts that are more ongoing, and we can also offer other services like marketing or SEO that can help give us more regular income, but most of our work will be one-off projects. This means we need to spend a lot of time, energy and money chasing sales and new business. That can be exhausting though, not to mention incredibly stressful, so it's understandable that agencies and their owners might want to get away from this by focusing more on a smaller number of bigger, high-value ongoing contracts. But this is where I've seen agencies come unstuck, and I can think of 2 very clear examples from when I used to work in London. One was an agency that grew really big off the back of one very high-profile automotive client. But then one day, the client pulled the plug and took their work away, and it nearly wiped the agency out. The second example was another big London agency that was too dependent on a major food brand. When the client pulled the account, it nearly crippled the agency. In the space of just 1 month, they went from 125 people to just 25. And these were both very high-profile, well-regarded agencies, ones that I and plenty of other designers used to look up to. Even in the agency I worked for before I started my own agency, we never suffered anything like that, but we did have one client, a very well-known brand, who actually made it a requirement that their account could never be more than 20% of the agency's revenues. They didn't want to be responsible for bringing an agency down if they took their work away. And even when I ran my own web design agency, I made the mistake early on of becoming too dependent on one client. When the relationship ended, it was really difficult as we had to pretty much build our pipeline from scratch. We did eventually recover and we would actually end up stronger as a result, but it was incredibly difficult and not something that I ever recommend. Number 2, niching or not diversifying. So the subject of whether to niche or specialise in a certain area can be a contentious one, but there are plenty of people who would recommend that you do actually do this, and there are benefits. So to try and keep this unbiased, let's talk about those first. And again, I'll use a real world example, this time from outside the web design industry. So about 10 years ago, I heard about a cleaning company that had done incredibly well from niching. They actually started out as a general cleaning company and weren't doing very well. They did all types of cleaning from offices to schools to shops, but they were struggling to find work. Then one day, someone recommended that they niche and that they should choose an area that they felt really strong in. The business owner chose cleaning for new build developments and specifically large estates of around 100 houses or more. Builders aren't exactly known for being the cleanest or tidiest, but that's fine. They're meant to be the experts in building houses, not cleaning up. So this cleaning company would go in after the houses were built and give them a thorough deep clean to get them back to showroom condition, ready for the new owners. This benefited the builders as it meant they could just focus on building houses, and for the cleaning company it gave them 3 clear benefits. First, they became known as specialist cleaners for builders, which meant other builders heard about them and sought them out. Second, by focusing on those larger estates, they were able to pick up bigger contracts, which meant they earned more money overall. Third, those bigger contracts gave them more security and visibility into the future, meaning they could be more confident when it came to growing their business and taking on more staff. But the problem with this approach is what happens if that specialist market dries up. Again, I saw this firsthand during COVID-19. I heard horror stories about agencies who just worked for events companies. When real world events were closed for more than a year, those agencies didn't have any work and many of them went under. Now, you might be thinking that COVID-19 was a one-off and the chances of something similar happening again are very rare, and you're probably right, but there will always be difficult times, and niching is also not just about working with certain industries. It can be about how much you charge. If you only offer more premium, higher cost websites and you don't have a lower cost, more budget alternative, then whenever there's an economic downturn and clients don't want to spend as much money, you could struggle. Or perhaps you specialize in a certain technology. I build websites in WordPress, and when I ran my agency, we also built on WordPress. I saw other CMSs like Drupal, Joomla, and Umbraco lose market share to WordPress as it gained in popularity. But that doesn't mean that WordPress will stay dominant forever, and we're already seeing other platforms like Webflow become more and more popular. But because I ran my agency as more of a generalist than a specialist, we were never really impacted in the same way. Because we worked with clients in lots of different industries, during COVID, we actually did quite well, and we even grew. And because we offered a range of price points, whenever there were downturns and clients weren't spending as much, we simply did more lower cost projects, while other agencies who only offer premium websites struggled. Number 3, not responding quickly enough. Okay, before we get into this one, I need to ask you a really big favour. It will really help us a lot if you could like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and also share this content with anyone else you think could benefit from it. It takes a lot of time to make these videos, so this will really help YouTube to recognise our content, and then we can carry on making helpful videos just like this. Okay, thank you, and back into it. So one of the things that always surprised me with a lot of other agencies and their owners was just this lack of urgency. And again, this was something that I was perhaps guilty of myself, but then something I turned to my advantage later on. I think there are probably 2 ways that not responding quickly enough can hurt your business though. The first is when it comes to new business opportunities, so when a potential client reaches out for a new website. The second is project management and client servicing, so when you're actually managing and communicating with the clients that you're working with. Both of these can bite you if you're too blasé about them. When I was first starting my agency, I remember there was such a lot to do and I was so busy trying to get it off the ground, I used to take my time when potential clients reached out or when I was dealing with existing ones. But I soon learned that that was a huge mistake. For new business, it meant I actually lost out on opportunities to other agencies who got in there quicker. And for client servicing, I soon learned that clients can become quite agitated if you don't respond to their inquiries quickly enough. I learned to use this to my advantage though. For new business, I learned to respond as quickly as possible, usually within the first couple of hours, but never more than 1 to 2 days. This gave me a head start when it came to getting on the client's radar and building a good relationship with them, and it put us in a more positive light than other agencies who took their time. For client servicing, I invested in very experienced and personable project and account managers, people who our clients really enjoy working with. And this gave us a halo effect, as it meant those clients were more likely to bring more work to us in the future and recommend us to other people. In fact, that last point is so important that it leads us nicely into the next one. Number 4, neglecting customer service. For me, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see so many web design agencies make. And in fact, it's so critical. I often say that if an agency is really struggling, chances are they've neglected customer service. I think one of the reasons that agencies do this though is because on paper at least, it's not perceived as something that actually makes money. Whether you run your web design agency on your own or you employ a team of people, when you're designing and building websites, you usually charge your clients for that time. Regardless of whether you charge them by the hour or they pay you a fixed fee for their new website, it's the time spent on design and development that usually generates the income. So it's logical to think that the more time you can spend on billable work like this, the more money you'll make. Because of this, project and account management can often be seen as an afterthought. At best, it might mean a half-hearted attempt at using systems, processes, or some kind of project management software, or employing people to do some of this work, but they might be too junior or inexperienced to do the job properly. At worst, it can be completely neglected, with barely any systems or employees dedicated to it. But this is usually where things start to go wrong. All clients need managing. The more money they spend, the more reassurance they will need, and the more clients you have, the more the volume of client management and communications will need to increase. One thing I've learned is that clients can forgive honest mistakes and maybe even delays, but they won't forgive being ignored or neglected. So if you don't invest in this, it could cost you. Okay, hopefully you found this video useful. If you've enjoyed it, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like more tips and insights for how to grow your business, check out my book series, Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency, which you can buy from Amazon now, and I'll share a link in the description below. And if you'd like to watch even more informative content, then why not check out this video here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.